Okay, here is my modern history video on Nazis. Nazis. I hate these guys. Okay, so here are some key features. Rise of fascism, totalitarianism, militaristic power, international efforts for peace and security, collapse of democracy, obviously, elimination of individual freedom, clearly, threats of dictatorships, pose to peace and security, and cult of personality, basically Hitler being a wanker. So there are a lot of components in this video. There is, before the war, the peace before the war, the reparations before the war, and then there's the rise of dictatorships, and then there's the Nazi dictatorship, and then there's after the war and like the denazification and what happened after World War II. So let's start off at the very beginning, before the war. An overview of peace and territories and their consequences. I'm just really going to go into one treaty, the Treaty of Versailles, because I think it really highlights all the other treaties, So the Paris Peace Conference. In 1919, the Allies met in Paris along with defeated nations, empires, to decide how the war should be settled. This led to decisions being decided on new European borders, who was to blame for the war, and who should pay for it. There were the big three. France, there was George Clemenceau. I need to learn French. And Britain, there was Winston Churchill, and America, there was Woodrow Wilson. And the French guy was really, really adamant about Germany paying, because they were a bit salty about it, which makes sense. There was a 14-point plan. The League of Nations was formed. And now on to the Treaty of Versailles, and the impact that it had on Germany. There were harsh penalties imposed on Germany, as they should. Less territory, reduced army, reparations. I think it was here it is, $6,600. This caused resentment of German people and political leaders, including Hitler. Caused German bankruptcy and recession. There's a picture. Here's a picture. And that lady, she's wearing a skirt made of francs, which is like the German money, because money didn't mean shit anymore. Immediate and short-term issues. The treaty would shape Germany for many decades in economic, social, and political ways. Here is some brief overview of dictatorships, apart from, the main one. Japan, Italy, and Russia. Rise of Marxist ideals, revolution, brewing hatred and revenge, brewing hatred of minorities, scapegoats. So Russia, the Soviet Union, Stalin's image, books, art, and cultural things were banned if he didn't like it. Cult of personality, socialists. Cult of personality means the idealized version of someone, and that their face would be everywhere, and propaganda would spread about them being the bestest guy ever. Hitler had one as well, obviously, even though they clearly aren't. Italy, fascists. There was a death march. Mussolini is in charge. Propaganda, Roman affiliations, and church values. So the way that that Mussolini kept his people in line and on his side, I suppose, in a way, was that he would keep in touch with church values, which was very important to their culture. And another thing that he and Hitler and some other dictators would do would try and reinvent this idea of ancient Rome. For example, Augustus, like he brought Roman peace and he was a despot, like he was the ruler of all and there was delegated power, but in actuality he was the main guy, and that's what they were kind of trying to represent here as well. Oh wow, that's what it looks like without the light. It's kind of, yeah. Anyway, okay. So now that that's like before the war, let's start with the Nazis. Okay. The Weimar Republic. So that's this. I had like a little thing. I don't know where it went. Is it in here? Oh no. Oh no. Okay, well I have it summarized. It's okay. The Weimar Republic was the German government of 1919 to 1933. There was street violence, right side fascists, versus left side commies, right wing parliament thugs, and army relied on. Never a major party in the Reichstag. That was a major problem because there were a bunch of like little parties and like they all had their different kind of ideals, and that meant a lot of street fights and a lot of like prejudice and hate, which people didn't even know like why they were hating other people. They just kind of did because they were like, oh, these people are going for this and these people are going for that, you know, that sort of thing. Hyperinflation, the chick in the dress, that's a really good source that you could use, like German hyperinflation, because she's like just sitting there and she's made a dress out of it. Another thing was like there are pictures of German people like literally lighting fire like with banknotes to keep warm because money didn't matter. An attempted coup. Kapp pushed Hitler's failed attempt at a coup. Young Hitler. He was a spy. He had some medals of honor. He was bitter of German surrender and the Treaty of Versailles and the Weimar Republic. The start of the Nazi Party. There were approximately 30,000 members by 1923. It was called the Nationalist Socialist German Workers' Party. The failed coup, which led to Hitler and some mates being thrown in jail, which led to Hitler's lovely little book, Mein Kampf, in which he outlined some 14-point plan and, you know, racism and some killing and shit like that. The 25-point plan included a Greater Germany, Grossdeutschland, abolish the peace treaty of Versailles, Lebensraum, which was to expand the region of Germany because, you know, the master race, like Daleks, what the fuck? The master race, they needed more space because they were going to grow their population because they were making all the women, like, have tons and tons of babies. Like what happened with Augustus. Lex Familia Marital, whatever the fuck that law was. German blood cannot be a part of, and those of German blood can be a part of the German nation. Great Depression, Recession, November criminals, Democratic politicians. This was a scapegoat. Lots of small parties and dangerous ideologies, which spread to allowing Nazism to rise. 7 million unemployed, so that led to extreme politics, obviously. Hitler kept demanding that he became chancellor, and he was like, let me in, let me in. And then von Papen and Schleifer, there was a rivalry, and people didn't like that Schleifer was like using Article 428, which meant like he had like a lot of power, which he probably shouldn't have had. But then Hitler used it later on, so I don't know what that's supposed to. But anyway, Hitler then became chancellor in 1933 after years of pining, and he wasn't even the biggest party. He was just the loudest, really. So, yeah. The Reichstag fire, February 27th, 1933. A fire broke out. Hitler used, a young communist lad was accused of starting the fire. Hitler used this as an excuse to prosecute his opponents, sent to camps and executed. Rumors that Nazis started it, I wouldn't be surprised, in fact it's most likely. Communists blamed, symbol of communism uprising. They really don't like the communists, do they? Look what I've done with your poster though. Past decree for protection of the German people in Reichstag, which was a very dangerous law, which they probably shouldn't have passed. Definitely shouldn't have passed. March 3rd, 1933, the Enabling Act. Now this is an act that they really should not have passed. The Reichstag Parliament signed and gave Hitler full power next to Hindenburg. I mean, that was a bit dumb, wasn't it? Reichstag, democracy, and Weimar Republic were soon gone. Are we at all surprised? Hindenburg's death, 1934, which meant that Hitler was now in full power and he was in full swing. Well, I think there was still the army left. Hitler already declared himself Führer before Hindenburg died. He was the supreme leader, chancellor, and dictator. The army swore allegiance to Hitler, not Germany. They swore allegiance to Hitler, not Germany, which is really telling, isn't it? Really telling. Nazi party dismantled, which led to totalitarian Nazi state, the Third Reich. Night of the Long Knives, which was basically a purge. Brown shirts, SA, killed political opponents. Gestapo participated as well. Nazi ideology. So now we flip it. And wait, this side, sorry. There. Nazis ideology. So, core beliefs based off Hitler's vision. Seriously, I can't even. Okay, now. Okay. Fear and scapegoating. Scared of impure, non-Iranian influences. Scapegoating minority groups such as Jewish people, disabled people, gypsies, and gay people, Romani people. Hated communists as well. Concentration camps, deportation, and killing were a solution. Not a very nice one. The Führer, the part of the ideology. No democracy, one single leader with complete power, everyone else, law, subservient. Like Führer Princip, so think of Augustus, like Augustus Principate, like they're all like circling back to this ancient Roman ideal of like one great leader and all things being like traditional. Is it really traditional? Like, it's just kind of like, you know, barbarically outdated, isn't it, really? Absolute overruling power of one man. Delegated power. All orders of his must be obeyed. Here's a quote. Hitler is Germany and Germany is Hitler. Whatever he does is necessary. Whatever he does is successful. Clearly the Führer has divine blessing. Rudolf Hess. Oktori. This was the belief that Hitler should be This was the belief that Germany should be economically independent, no reliance and no trade with neighboring countries or global countries. Number 4, Germany speakers should all be in one place united. So all of German people should be in one place, basically. Unless you're Jewish or gay or, you know, not pure as white, pure as snow. Lieberstrom, the idea that the master race will grow and need to expand the German region. This led to invasion of other countries such as Czech, Poland, and Austria. Context, you know, Germany lost a lot of territory after World War I. And here's a little map that I've done. I don't know if this is going to flip, but I really hope it will. Um, here are, oh wait, is that it? No, it's not. Gleichstoss, Gleichschaltung, I think I need to learn German and French to do modern history. This means centralization, Nazification, conformity. Nazi ideology and practice were the center of state, so that it's like the center of everything. Banned non-Nazi groups, censored art and culture, used terror and repression tactics, political prisoners sent to concentration camps, Dachau, which was the first ever concentration camp which wasn't for Jewish people or another minority, it was just for political prisoners, so that's how it kind of started off. Establishment of the Gestapo, and some laws which we will get into, which are pretty hectic. Here are some laws. Is that the law one? No, there's the laws. There. Laws against the establishment of parties, July 1933. This meant a ban of all non-German groups. Law against malicious acts on state and party, 1934, December. This meant you were not allowed to criticize the Nazi regime. Hitler Youth, there were two laws. So the first one in 1936 banned all non-Nazi youth groups, and then in 1939 mandatory for children 6 and older to join. And that's really sad. Prevention of disease program. This was forced sterilization of disabled people, as they were seen as a burden to society. 200,000 people died in this program. The fact I have to keep using like air quotes because it's just so fucking ridiculous, the kind of shit that they were spitting. 1933, numerous laws restricting Jewish people. They were not allowed to work in civil service, legal, medical. 1935, they were not allowed to work in military. Journalism, they were deprived of rights to public places such as park benches, selected businesses, parks. September 1941 were the badges. Reinhard Heydrich declared the Star of David badges must be mandatory for all Jewish people over the age of 6. I suppose that's a good way to remember the Hitler Youth Law and the badge one. Nuremberg laws. This is really interesting and really sick. 1935, the Nuremberg laws. Restrictions based on Jewish ancestry and relation. So there were restrictions on marriage, rights, education. Basically, the Nuremberg laws would determine who was deemed a Jew or like a Mistling. A Mistling, I don't know, is basically like if you're mixed, like let's say that one of your grandparents was Jewish, and that meant that you were like a second degree Mistling, so that meant you had some limited rights. But there are like varying levels, and it depended if you were like in the church, if you were married to someone who's Jewish. It would all kind of depend on these sort of factors as to like what category you were placed into and what that meant for like what determine your fate, like if you were going to go to the concentration camps and all. Censorship, book burning. By 1939, 2,500 authors were burned for their books. The Nazis heavily censored any form of free speech and the creative arts. Propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels. Reich Chamber of Culture. Censored newspaper, radio, media, theatre, art, photography, anything really under the sun. Needed membership to work in these fields. If you didn't have one, it resulted in loss of employment. Self-censorship was common, so that they didn't want to, be perpetrated. The Heil Hitler salute was the official salute and greeting. further censorship. In 1933, 3 months after the Nazis' takeover, they banned books. Nazis mass-produced radios so that they could get out Nazi messages and so that the German people could hear Hitler's voice on a daily. Shut down newspapers, printing propaganda, posters and flyers, and in newspapers, propaganda movies, The Eternal Jew, 1940, the SS Schutzstaffel. What's that? Bloody hell. Get on. Bitch. That's gonna fall, isn't it? I give up. Formed 1925 as Hitler's personal bodyguard, replaced the SA after the Night of the Long Knives, visible force of terror, leader Heinrich Himmler, a few thousand to a few million by 1939, the numbers grew, black uniform, elite example of Iranian perfection, racial background checks, responsible for state security, intelligence, and running camps. So, the Gestapo, secret police, spy on domestic matters. They would tell children to spy on their parents, and they would also tell people, like, if they saw anything suspicious, to report it. They also ran the camps, sent a lot of people to camps, wiretaps and surveillance measurements. Impact of the Nazi regime on Germany, well, I'd assume it'd be quite significant. Nazification of Germany, control, adapt, propaganda, minorities, cultural oppression, the Reichstag Kunstkammer, the Reichstag Chamber of Culture, control, restrictions, regulations, religion. 1/3 of Germany was Catholic and 2/3 was Protestant. Nazi belief in church was disguised as Christian values. Churches were promised to be left alone when signing the Enabling Act. This didn't happen. Many religious leaders were arrested, and the swastika was replaced. And this was replaced with the swastika. I can't get it up. Okay, hopefully it'll stay. Doesn't really matter. Anyway. Abolishment of Christian youth groups. Example of like a pristine Nazi pure church was the Evangeline Church. Workers abolished unions. DAF, German Workers' Front, Nazi-led union. Membership compulsory. If not, severe restricted availability on jobs. Women were taken out of male jobs. Unemployment rate dropped from 600,000 to 200,000. RAD, Reich Labor Service. Youth. There's a poor little girl, and then the Edelweiss Pirates, Jojo Rabbit, some little kids. Nazi curriculum taught in school, mandatory Hitler Youth, anti-Nazi youth gangs, Edelweiss Pirates, military training, athletics for boys, motherhood and wife duties for girls, and then they would go to like these Hitler Youth camps, and girls and boys were encouraged to have sex. So the girls would like send letters home to their parents and say like, oh yeah, I had sex, and then the parents were like, what the fuck? German Girls League, propaganda taught women, Kinder Kutsch, I need to learn German, which meant kids, kitchen, church. They were set back to traditional female roles and values, taken out of, male jobs. Awards were given for having kids due to falling birth rates. It's starting to sound like The Handmaid's Tale. Discouraged to work. DFW, which was like education for women into wifely duties, motherly duties. Emancipation of women, which is what German intellectuals would call it. Here's a quote from Jojo Rabbit. Had 8 babies for Germany. What a great year to be a girl. Fuck. Yikes. Minorities. Jewish, disabled, gay, Romani, and black. Here are just some dot points. Final solution, camps, pink triangle, 6 million Jewish people died in the Holocaust. 200,000 disabled people died in the euthanasia program and forced sterilization. Scapegoats, vilified, disgustingly inhumane. The pianist, Rosa Neer. And then I have these little mini ones. The gays. Before the Nazis came to power in 1935, gay communities and networks flourished, despite it being criminalized. Nazis arrested a large number of gay men, banned gay sexual relationships, sent to concentration camps, or killed. 5,000 to 15,000 men were imprisoned in concentration camps for homosexual offenders, required to wear a pink triangle as a form of uniform classification. There's a book, The Man in the Pink Triangle or something. The disabled people with mental and physical disabilities were prosecuted. Prosecution, abuse, and murder. Nazis viewed them as life unworthy of living, a burden to society, socially and economically. T4 euthanasia program, 1939. First systematic killing operation. Doctors, nurses required to report any children born with a disability to be sent to a facility to be gas-starved or lethally injected. Adults in institutions, approximately 200,000 were killed in programs. Propaganda dehumanized and vilified disabled people, portrayed as a threat to genetic German health. Laws for prevention of hereditary diseases, offspring in 1933, which meant forced sterilization of 400,000 people contained in poor conditions after the war. I don't have information on Romani and the black people who were prosecuted because I couldn't find much. I'm kind of running out of time because I'm trying to study and I don't have much. I have 3 other topics to do in modern history and fucking 4 in ancient, and I haven't started with the Roman Empire, so I'm kind of screwed. The Jewish one. Okay. 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust. They were made up about less than 1% of the German population and 10% of Poland. They were scapegoated and impure in Nazis' ideals, blamed by Hitler for Germany's problems and communism, anti-Semitic laws passed, rights taken away, revoked citizenships. 1938, the violent night of Saigon's being burnt and Jewish windows smashed, put German people in ghettos, prosecution. The final solution, I don't know for sure, but I think it was Heinrich Himmler's second-hand man who got the final solution signed. The final solution meaning extermination of all Jewish people in the final years of the Hitler reign. Here are some laws that were introduced. 1933, boycott of Jewish businesses. 1933, law for restoration of the professional civil service. 1933, working laws. So that was the restrictions that we talked about earlier, where they couldn't have certain rights. 1935, the Nuremberg laws, the Mischling one, we've been over that. Decrees and restrictions. The badges, elimination of Jews from economic life. Jewish identity cards were required, and they had to add the name Israel for men and Sarah for girls, so it's easier to like identify them. Ghettoization. Germans invaded Poland, 1939. Jewish people forced into overcrowded, isolated ghettos, holding area latter, which served as a holding area, before the camps. And then here are some specific stories. I don't know where the book is. Wait, I'll find the book. Okay, I got the book. This is The Pianist. It's also a film. I think it's probably my second favorite film after Goodfellas now, because it was just so devastating, and I love Adrien Brody as well. The powerful, best-selling memoir of a young Jewish pianist who survived the war in Warsaw against the odds, alongside moving extracts from the diary of the German officer who saved his life. I also have references to the movie. Ladislav Spielman, or Waldeck. The film by Roman Polanski. Based on the memoirs of Ladislav Spielman, a Jewish pianist, a very ordinary man, not a hero, just a man hoped to get through by resilience and passion, a story of hardship. Adrien Brody, youngest actor to ever win an Oscar at 29. And here's a quote that really got me. It was like, you know what people are like? They want to be better Nazis than Hitler. And then we have a really weird, interesting story about a young girl who was categorized as a Mischling. Rosa Bernhardin Nguyen, or, the photo that people thought was Hitler's daughter. Surprisingly enough, even though Hitler was, fucking disgusting and hopped up on meth, he really loved animals and children. And he was a vegetarian, so I feel like there's a disconnect. So basically this little girl wrote letters to Hitler and became close. 17 letters were known, and she became known as the Führer's child. The friendship lasted 6 years. How they met? Both had the same birthday. She and her mother joined the crowds outside his residence. When he learned that they shared the same birthday, he invited them in. Until she and her mother, a widow, were told to cut off contact by the Nazi leader's private secretary, Martin Bormann, after discovering she had a Jewish grandmother, making her a Mischling, second degree, so not third degree, second. She died October 5th, 1943, age 17, of spinal polio. And then to finish, we have After the War, which I have very few notes on. Again, this is just like a brief overview. The Nuremberg trials. So Nazis were, head office Nazis and war criminals were prosecuted. Many killed themselves, and many were killed in the judicial process. Oh, I can't pronounce words. Denazification. Re-education of the German people, removing Nazi ideologies and influence from all forms of public life, arrested war criminals, and it worked, it was effective, but then again, it wasn't very thorough, and the US kind of let a few slip by. And when I say a few, I mean quite a lot. This was called Operation Paperclip. This operation saw the US forgiving Nazi scientists and engineers, putting them to work for creating weapons for the Cold War, and this was over 1,600 Germans. Germany never recovered. So those are my notes. This. So here's the poster. I don't know if you can even see this, but I'm trying to see. Bro's on meth 24/7. Anyway. So I hope that gave you like a little brief overview. Thank you.